good evening, and welcome to Riderpiece Theater. Me, Alistair Dayhawk, and tonight, me proud to present Kamen Rider Gacha episode 25. This episode left me frustrated, and it just left me with a bitter taste in my mouth, because we now know the true reason why Minato Sensei turned to the dark side. And the reason the show gave really made me pause the show and be all frustrated with the show overall. And I'm like, why did the writers do this? Because in logic sense, in my personal opinion, it's stupid, and it's just the way Minato Sensei was thinking doesn't make any sense. So I will explain further once we reach the scene. So let me begin with, the master is happy seeing the results of what's going on. He's seeing all the Chemy Cards just flying down from the roof, and he is happy of what he's seeing. All that's left for Minato Sensei to do is to finish the job, right? Well, it's not the case, because now Hotaro used forbidden alchemy to become Iron Gacha. And this is what this is where the malgam of the week decided to bombard Hotaro with a barrage of wormhole attacks, which by the way didn't work, and Hotaro quickly destroys it with the iron knuckle, and he immediately captures the new Chemy card, his new friend, the Warp Terra, and then Minato Sensei was about to attack him, which he did, but his attack did not work. But then when Hotaro was about to attack, I don't think he would have attacked, but if he would have, it wouldn't have mattered, because you see statics coming out from the suit, and this is where Hotaro demorphs, because he has lost a lot of energy. And just before he was about to hit the floor, because he was about to collapse, Fuga finally made his presence known to everybody. And he caught Hotaro at the nick of time, and everybody was in shock, in disbelief. And this is where, Minato was like, oh, geez, but I wish they could have just have him demorph and just see his facial expressions of this moment, because, everybody assumed that Fuga was killed, but it wasn't the case. And before Fuga left, he says to Minato Sensei, "What the hell are you doing? You are a teacher. Why are you stealing these kids' hopes and dreams for? Is it part of the lesson plan?" And then Fuga escapes with everybody from the Alliance, leaving Minato Sensei alone. And then we reach the restaurant scene, which, mind you, Mama-san is still at the grocery store. And I want to say this, and I will mention it more once I do the character video, is that Mama-san, I hate to say this, but she is a dead weight. She does not contribute to the show, and I wish the writers could give her something more than just a parent who just ups and leaves, takes care of the restaurant. I want her to do more. But in this case, the last time we saw her, she just left to get more groceries, and I assume she went to the other side of town, because she hasn't returned yet. But can you imagine if she would have returned with this huge gathering of people, and her son is laying in bed, and it looks like, he's having a nightmare, he is sick. Can you imagine that drama? But unfortunately, the writers are not going to do that. So, anyways, the Alliance returns to the restaurant. We finally get the family reunion we all wanted to see. You see Kuro hugging her father, telling him, I hate you, why did you leave me? You know, all these things. And Fuga was like, I'm sorry I left you alone, and I do apologize for that, but now I'm here, and things will be alright, I promise. Something around those lines, right? Kuro, of course, tells her father that, hey, I have a million questions to ask you. But she turned her attention to Hotaro and asked him, why is he like this? Like, what's going on here? So, guys, we're not going to get the answers we seek until later, unfortunately. Even though we have, one major revelation, that's pretty much it. Fuga's return was spoiled, and I didn't care because I knew from the get-go that Fuga is like one of the big shot alchemists, and there's no way that they will kill him up so easily and so early within the show. And also, Kamen Rider has a way to return people from the dead, so don't count the people who died off just yet. So Fuga explains to everybody that Hotaro went undergo a forbidden alchemy technique in order to become Iron Gacha. That's why he's like this. So we get to this flashback where Fuga meets with Hotaro and the professor, Sabi, and Reige, and this is where Fuga explains to Hotaro that if you want to transform with only just one card, this is what you need to do. And he explains that this technique is ancient alchemy, and one's being needs to transmit one's being with one of the chemies, the powers of a chemy. And if you've noticed, Hotaro was smiling as Fuga was trying to explain what this magic is, and he enjoyed the idea that, oh, my being will be one with the chemies in such a weird way, because this is cringy Hotaro we're talking about here. He's more like a mother to them than a friend than anything else. Anyways, as he finished explaining, both of them, the professor and Fuga, again tells Hotaro, this is a major risk because you're a novice and you're not strong enough to withstand this forbidden technique. But of course, Hotaro is willing to pay because he has no choice. He's willing to save his friends and, of course, his children, the chemies. So before he undergoes this technique, he learns this technique, Fuga changed his ring from silver to gold, so now we know that it was actually Hotaro's ring, not Fuga's ring. And he does the magic. You see him struggling, he's in pain. He is like trying to insert the train chemy into the driver. As you can tell, steam is coming out from the driver because it's becoming mighty hot. But ultimately he succeeded, and that's how the 10-liner was born. And we go back to the restaurant, and Fuga tells the kids that now is the time for you guys to infiltrate the academy and to take back what is yours, which is the stolen Chemy Cards. But before the kids were able to leave the restaurant, the professor stops them and tells Fuga that before you go, you need to know the reason why Minato Sensei joined the master. And in order to understand why he did what he did, we have to go back 10 years ago. Again, this flashback is brought to you by 10 years ago. And then, before we get to the flashback, we go back to the academy where the master was in disbelief that Hotaro somehow, some way, learned this forbidden alchemy technique. Mind you, I don't think he knows that Fuga returned. So that secret is safe, and Minato Sensei would have told him, but he did not. So the master ordered Minato Sensei to not only steal the rest of the Chemy Cards, but also kill Hotaro, because now Hotaro is becoming more of a threat than anybody else. Of course, the other members of the alliance are a threat, but Hotaro right now is one of the biggest threats to his master plan, so he needs to get rid of him. So we go to the flashback where we meet Minato, where we meet Professor Kyoka, and this is where we meet Minato's best friend Daiki, and we get to know a little bit about him. And what was surprisingly similar, I want to say, is that let me scratch what I said. What I find it surprising about his character is that he shares a very similar dream with Hotaro, minus the chemies. His dream is to become not only one of the top alchemists, but also he wants to share alchemy to the entire world, including the non-magic folk. And he wants to break the laws of alchemy, the rules that Kudo always tries to protect and nag, Hotaro, like, you can't do this because of the rules, blah, blah, blah. He wants to break them. And Minato was like, yeah, sure, why not? But at the end of the day, he just said, you know what, I believe you. I believe this dream is stupid, but, if you believe in it and you work hard on it, then you will succeed. But this lovey, thing they had broke off because chaos ensued. Malgam started to attack students. Everybody's in shock because they thought that Professor Fuga was protecting the Chemy Cards. There's no way that anybody would steal them or whatever. And what's worse is that 2 out of the 3 sisters came in as well, and they start attacking students. The trio separated, and this is where Daiki was almost killed by the malgam, but luckily Fuga stepped in and pretty much bind the malgam for right now. And he tells Daiki to find any students to go find the master, because he's the one who did this. He's the traitor. Do whatever it takes to stop him. But in my personal opinion here, Fuga, I believe, made a mistake, because why are you leaving the hands? Why are you leaving the job to students where the master is supposedly one of the top alchemists in the association? You're leading them to slaughter, in my opinion. I don't know what your thoughts about that, but it just goes to show that the alchemy school lacks teachers. Like, where are the rest of the teachers? Again, the issue I have with the show is realism, but it's neither here or there. So Daiki does what he says, and then we get to the scene with Minato and the master, and Minato asks the master, hey, the malgam, there's a malgam attacking the school, and these 2 strange women are attacking as well. Can you help us? But of course the master will not do anything except that no, don't worry about it. Everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be all right. So he's not gonna do anything, obviously, because he's the guy. He was the one who was behind this charade, this chaos. And then here comes Daiki with a bunch of students, and this is where Daiki tells Minato, like, do not trust this guy. Stay away from him, because he's the reason why the malgam is here. The sisters are here, and you need to stay away from him. Of course, the master tries to deny everything that Daiki said, pointing the finger at Fuga because he's the traitor. And this is where Minato was literally put in the middle, because the master was was asking Minato, like, who do you believe? Do you believe me or do you believe him, his best friend? So he's literally smack in the middle. And you could tell he was started to hesitate a little bit because, the master is a teacher and, but he is also, but Daiki is considered to be his best friend. So he doesn't know who to trust, but ultimately he chose his best friend and tries to bind the master and try to, take him in. But obviously it didn't work. The master was upset at Minato for his choice, and we get to see him destroy the binds, but at the same time we get to see the creation of his iconic golden Rubik's Cube. And this is where things get very ugly very quickly, because now that the master is pissed off, he was about to kill Minato. But no, it wasn't the case. Daiki pushed Minato out of the way and took the blunt of the attack. If you've seen that scene, then I don't need to really describe it to you, but it was bad. And poor Minato, he doesn't know what to do. And Daiki has been, he was at the border of being dead, barely alive. And once Daiki was dealt with, the master then turned his attention to the rest of the students, and he used his alchemy to turn the students against each other. So they end up killing each other. And the master tells Minato before he left, because Weird Sister number 1, who's been played by a 9-year-old, tells the master that I found the door to darkness. And so they're about to leave. So the master tells Minato that I'm not gonna erase this memory from you. I want you to remember this day, because of your mistake, your best friend and the other students are killed. And he leaves. And as he leaves, Minato still holds Daiki's body, still like he's hanging on, but and you see poor Minato is just telling him, "Can you please hold on? What about your dream?" But he ends up dying in his arms, and then hours pass. You see Kyoka coming in. She sees a sea of corpses. Minato is there holding Daiki, and she asks him, like, what the hell just happened here? And this is where Minato says that I killed my best friend. I was the one that killed his dream. And then it leads off to what the professor, we leave off to current time, and this is where I literally paused the show after Kyoka told everybody the reason why he turned. She said, and I quote, that the reason why Minato Sensei turned to join the master is because he wanted to protect his students. He didn't want you guys to share the same fate as Daiki. And I was frustrated. I was like, writers, why? It's so stupid. It was so stupid, and I will tell you why. The Alliance have the items that the Master wants. The Chemy Cards, but more importantly, the Gacha Driver. Because the Gacha Driver is supposedly the key that turns the door, that unlocks the door to Kingdom Hearts. It didn't matter if Minato stayed with the Alliance or left, because at the end of the day, the Master will still send the sisters and the malgams after them because they have something he wants. And what's even worse is that he did it out of grief, but in his weird mind too, he did it to protect his students. And here I thought, he joined because he wanted to destroy the Master from within? Or or he got blackmailed, because I got the impression that the master was blackmailing him, forcing him to join him because, he has something over Minato Sensei. But it wasn't the case either. The writers made it sound that Minato Sensei did something bad towards his best friend. Like, he accidentally killed somebody, and the master saw everything. He covered it up, but in return he asked for a favor. 10 years later, he cashes in the favor, and this is where we are now. It wasn't that either. And to me, I felt like the term was for nothing, because he didn't really do anything to stop the master from proceeding from his plans. Because all I saw, aside from not killing the professor, is, just the scene, if you remember, of him and the master just killing off of Spanner's parents again to make him join their cause. And you constantly see Minato Sensei in fights with his ex-students, and I'm like, is this protecting them? And also, let's say Minato Sensei had succeeded. He took away all the Chemy Cards, he took away all the drivers, erased their memories, and then what? Do you seriously believe that the master will leave them alone once he got what he wanted? No. 2 reasons. For one reason is that the master will see them as loose ends. Even though the threat may be over, it could come back. So as an insurance policy, he could have sent him or one of the sisters to kill them. And let's say he didn't kill them, and he just waits until he opens the door to Kingdom Hearts. They will be dead too. Either way, the alliance will die. So the way I look at it, his reasons, his lines of thought for joining the master was so stupid. And one last thing before I move on. What did Minato Sensei contribute into trying to sabotage the master, aside from not killing the professor? Name maybe 2 more things, because right now I don't see anything. He was a lousy double agent, and here I thought he was blackmailed, but no, it wasn't the case either. So, it's just, I cannot be at the side of Minato Sensei when this line of reason doesn't make any sense to me because of realism and logic. But that's just my opinion. So what's your thoughts about this? Because for me, that reason did not sat with me at all, and it just sucks. But yeah. So after the story, Fuga gives him the location of the secret entrance. They leave, and then just when Fuga went over to check on Hotaro was wide awake. He heard everything. We immediately go to the scene where the Alliance reached the entrance, but lo and behold, Minato Sensei is there, and he tells them that you're not going to pass. Beat me and you will pass, that sort of thing. And of course, the kids do not want to fight him, obviously, especially now they know the reason why. But it's inevitable, so they end up fighting Minato Sensei for a bit. And then here comes number 3. Poor number 3. Why, you may ask? Well, she shows up and she transforms into a new malgam using 2 of the stolen Chemy Cards, and she goes on the attack. But then Minato Sensei jumps in immediately, attacks her, and throws her like a piece of garbage. and just tells her like, do not touch my students. I will deal with them. And yeah, so he throws her like a piece of garbage. And so after that, the fight continues, and then we see Steam Royal Royd. I think I forgot the train Chemy's name, but it doesn't matter because the train comes in, breaks off the fight, and guess who makes this entrance, this grand entrance? Hotaro with this weird face expression. He look at this picture, guys. Give me your thoughts about this picture. Because when I saw this on the show, I was like, what the hell happened to you, Hotaro? Like, did you wake up from a nightmare? What is this? Like, I was like, what? His eyes looked like they're wide open, and I don't know, he was trying to force himself to cry. I have no idea what he was trying to do. But he gave this weird facial expression, and it just caught me off guard. I just don't know what the actor was trying to do, but it just came out really cringe, in my opinion. So cringy Hotaro with his cringy face shows up, breaks up the fight, and tells Minato Sensei, I challenge you to a duel. If I beat you, you return with us. That was it. No questions asked. And so Hotaro transforms into Iron Gacha. He and Minato fight while Kudo and Spanner have their duel with Weird Sister number 3, who got thrown like a sack of potatoes. And then this is the scene where we get all the kids trying to reach out to Minato Sensei with their feelings. And Hotaro tells Minato Sensei as they were fighting that, hey, we know everything, and we're sorry about Daiki, but this is not the way, right? So Hotaro, well, before that, Minato was surprised that, they now know the truth, but it doesn't really matter now. And he gives out, hopelessness, fear towards these kids, because he is afraid that these kids will die at the hands of the master, because he believes they're not ready. Side note, Minato Sensei, you suck as a teacher, and I will go ham on you the moment I create my character video. Just be prepared. Anyways, he's giving despair, hopelessness to these kids, while Hotaro starts off first and tries to give him hope. He tells Minato Sensei, I understand, but we're ready for this. We're prepared for this. We are ready to face the master. And then we cut to Kudo as she was fighting number 3. She tells Minato Sensei about her growth, and she begs him to come back. And then out of all the kids, Spanner's was one of the best ever, and I was cracking up. I was bursting out laughing because Spanner, he's becoming one of my favorites in this show. He's the reason why I continue watching the show. He is being a wise ass. He is very blunt, and here's what he said: I overcome my past. You're a coward. That line, I was bursting out laughing. You have Hotaro and Kudo just trying to reach out to Minato Sensei with hope and growth, but then you have Spanner, who is like, you're a coward, dude. Yeah, I know. And then we move on to Sabimaru, who he is pretty much venting to Minato Sensei that he was confused of what he did. He's angry. So once he returns, he's gonna let it out. He's gonna give him, the finger to Minato Sensei. He's not gonna let go. He's gonna be unleashed. You know, he is like, I have lots of things to say to you, Minato Sensei. So wait until we get you home. You will have an earful from me. And then we get to Renge, and she just sums it up in a bow. She just ties it up in a bow with this: "You're an idiot." Yes, Renge, I definitely agree with you. You and Spanner, he is a coward and he is an idiot. And Minato Sensei just stood there taking the verbal abuse, and he's just, you can tell that he is like, he's fighting within himself. He wants to come back, but he knows that he can't because he right now feels trapped. And I have to give kudos to the suit actor who plays Dread, because he is a very good stunt actor. He really is. He knows how to tell a story. His stunt of what he did with the wrench sword with his legs, I have to give kudos to that guy, whoever he is. You're very good at what you do, and keep up the good work. And then the scene ends with Hotaro again, that he finishes off Minato Sensei with, "Look, we can beat the master together," And so he unleashes his iron buckle onto Minato Sensei. Of course, he tried to dodge it with his own attack, while at the same time you have Kudo and Spanner unleashing their attacks onto number 3. And what's cool about that ending scene is that both, like all 3 attacks, or in this case 4 because of Minato Sensei, connected at the same time, and the explosions happened at the same time as well. So I find it to be very cool, in my opinion. So Weird Sister number 3 gets defeated once again. The Alliance recapture 2 of the stolen Chemy Cards, and then you see Minato Sensei on his knees. The Dread Driver is on the floor. You see cuts and bruises as usual, and then Hotaro demorphs because he used all his energy up. He was about to collapse again, but luckily Spanner and Kudo grabbed him before he fell. And then once again, Hotaro tries to reach out to him. "Can you please come back? We need you. Together with you, we can defeat the master." But this is where Minato Sensei just stood up and walks away. Why? Because again, he is haunted by that memory, and he is overwhelmed with guilt. Remember, he harbored this guilt for 10 years, over 10 years, and it's not something that someone can get over this quickly. But ultimately, he walked away from his students and just leaving them hanging. And then we get to the last scene of the episode where the master was not happy of what happened with this defeat. Miro just ups and leaves, and Weird Sister number 3, returns with the Dread Driver, and the master says, "Minato Sensei is no longer of use to me." So he orders number 2 to execute him. And this is where we get the scene where normally number 2 would be happy to execute somebody, but not this time. You see her not happy. She's like, I'm not sure if I want to do this. But at the end of the day, even with this defeat, it's a minor setback, because now that the master has a bountiful of Chemy Cards, now it's time for him to unleash a greater tragedy one that is far worse than what happened 10 years ago, according to him. And he starts doing the evil laugh, and that's the end of the episode. So, what I got from this episode is that this episode felt like this is the beginning of an eventual 2-parter, 3-parter episode of, recapturing the Chemy Cards, reclaiming their school, and the final defeat of the Master. Because, unfortunately, with villains that show up at this branch of the season, they normally won't survive and I don't see the Master living up until the final episode. I'm getting this feeling that the final villains of this story will ultimately be the Alliance versus the Alchemist Association. That's the way I am seeing right now. Whether or not the sisters will be joining the Alliance or not, that remains to be seen, even though number 2, it feels like she is slowly turning to the light side, because, her fears were warranted. Because remember, those seeds were already planted long before Minato Sensei entered the fray. She was afraid that the Master will eventually turn their backs on them, and she tells her sisters that we need to be ready and strike while the iron is hot. But ultimately, 2 of the sisters seriously disagreed with her, and she was alone in this. And remember, as she came out from that room, Minato Sensei overheard everything. And this is where I believe Minato Sensei decided to have her into his plans. Hence, what happened in that scene where Minato Sensei was injured from the battle he had with Spanner, and tells number 2 that, hey, we need to be prepared for the worst, because this is far from over. And I think this is where off-screen Minato Sensei may be confined in number 2, and this is where number 2 has to make a choice between the Master or being free from him, regardless if it was out of fear or not. But this episode just left me frustrated. It just for me, it went down as a wet fart because of the reason Minato Sensei joined. I'm not going to repeat it here, but just to summarize, Minato Sensei joined because he wanted to protect his kids, but I already stated my reason why that reason is so stupid, due to the fact that the Master will still go after them no matter what, and his sacrifice was for nothing. And I don't remember if I asked you guys this question, but if I had, please forgive me, since I have a tendency to repeat myself. Mind you, this is not scripted at all. Has Minato Sensei, aside from not killing Kyoka, what did he do to help jeopardize the Master's mission? Because to me, he didn't really contribute much, except Kyoka, maybe Weird Sister number 2's eventual turn, and 3, maybe during the fight he had with Spanner and helping him overcome, his berserk form, that sort of thing. I can only think of 3. I could give him credit for those 3. But other than that, that's it. I know I'm really hard on Minato Sensei, but I already stated my reasons why. And I'll repeat them again once I make my heroes video. But again, what's your opinion of the answer we got from Professor Kyoka? Do you accept that reason, or you're just like me, we're like, no, that's a horrible reason, horrible. Do you see number two eventual babyface turn? I see it. I see it happening. Is there a possibility that Hotaro will indulge into more forbidden alchemy? That I don't see that, but I want him to go through that because it will be interesting to see, and it will open up doors for his character. And yeah, I always stated my reasons. Mama-san is a dead weight. I don't understand why the writers have her there. She does not contribute, but I will say that to once again in my character video. But yeah, I think that's all I have for now. But what do you guys think about the episode? And also, do you agree or disagree of the reason that I just said? Write on the comments below. And also, if I miss anything, feel free to write in the comments below. Like, at the end of the day, we all Kamen Rider fans, we all want these shows to be great and enjoyable to watch. And we can't go as, oh, everything is hunky-dory in Kamen Rider land when you see things like the writing is bad and all those types of things, you know. We all have opinions, whether it's good or bad. It's just, you know, I believe it's our duty to just, you know, give out our opinions, have a decent conversation, and by the end of it, you know, be happy and giddy and be, you know, excited for the next episode. But for me, for Gacha, if only it started before Geats. If it started before Geats, then I think the show would have gotten a better reaction. But since it came after, boy oh boy, it's rough out there for them. But you know, it is what it is, right? Alright kids, I'm gonna stop rambling. Thank you so much for listening, and please, once again, write on the comments below. Talk to me. What are your thoughts and your opinions of what I just said, the episode as a whole, and your overall thoughts about the show as your overall thoughts of the show. What are your thoughts and your opinions about it? Give me everything in the comments below. Give it a like if you like it, and please subscribe. And I'll see you all on the other side of Oblivion. Johnny!